The crystal chandelier at the Metropolitan Country Club cast rainbow prisms across the ballroom floor as I approached the seating chart, scanning for my name among the elegant calligraphy. Victoria's wedding promised to be the social event of the season. 300 guests, a 7-course dinner, and enough flowers to stock a small nursery. Table 1. Immediate family. Table 2. Wedding party. Table 3. Victoria's medical school colleagues. Tables 4-12. Extended family with appropriate accomplishments. Table 23. Singles and miscellaneous. I found my nameplate tucked between +1 Henderson and Jake Morrison, distant cousin. Not Dr. Elena Vasquez, cousin of the bride. Not even Elena family. Just my name floating anonymously among the wedding's social afterthoughts. Elena. Darling. Aunt Mary swept toward me in a cloud of Estée Lauder and maternal authority, her mother of the bride glow only slightly dimmed by the stress lines around her eyes. You look absolutely lovely. That dress is very international. I smoothed my navy cocktail dress, chosen specifically because it transitioned seamlessly from diplomatic functions to family obligations. At 29, I'd learned to pack pieces that could handle unexpected protocol requirements, even at cousin weddings. Thank you, Aunt Mary. Victoria looks radiant. Doesn't she? Mary's eyes misted with pride as she gazed toward her daughter, who was posing for pre-ceremony photos in a cloud of silk and tulle. Dr. Victoria Martinez Williams now. Both she and James are residents at Presbyterian Hospital. Such accomplished young people. The emphasis on accomplished hung in the air like incense, a subtle reminder of the family hierarchy that placed medical residents above whatever it was I did for a living. I hope you don't mind the seating arrangement, Mary continued with practiced diplomacy. We had to be strategic about the photos and networking opportunities. Victoria's new in-laws are very prominent in the medical community, and James's colleagues are all highly regarded surgeons. Of course. Besides, table 23 will be much more comfortable for you. Less pressure to discuss career achievements and professional milestones. More relaxed. Victoria approached in her wedding gown, practically floating across the marble floor. At 27, she'd achieved everything a young professional was supposed to achieve. Medical degree, prestigious residency, handsome doctor husband, and the kind of future that made perfect sense to everyone who met her. Elena. I'm so glad you could make it, she said, kissing my cheek carefully to avoid disturbing her makeup. I know how busy you are with your traveling work. My traveling work. That was the family's collective term for my career in international diplomacy, which they'd never quite managed to categorize in terms they could explain at dinner parties. I wouldn't miss it. I hope you understand about the seating. Victoria lowered her voice conspiratorially. Mother wanted to showcase the family's professional achievements prominently. You know how these medical crowd events can be, very focused on career credentials and institutional affiliations. James joined us in his custom tuxedo, radiating the confidence of someone accustomed to life and death decisions. Elena. Victoria's mysterious globe-trotting cousin. Still jet-setting for that consulting company. Consulting company. My position as senior policy advisor for international relations had been transformed into generic business consulting, easier for the family to digest than the reality of my work coordinating policy between world governments. Something like that. Well, don't feel bad about the back table, James said with practiced medical bedside manner. Victoria wanted to put all the single relatives together so they could network. Very thoughtful, actually. The wedding coordinator appeared with her clipboard and headset, surveying the room with military precision. Mrs. Martinez, we're ready for family photos. Could we gather the immediate family near the main entrance? Mary immediately took charge, arranging Victoria, James, aunts, uncles and grandparents into an elegant grouping beneath the crystal chandelier. Professional photographers clicked away, capturing the successful family unit that would grace mantelpieces and Christmas cards for generations. Elena, the coordinator called out, could you step behind the decorative screen for a moment? We want clean sight lines for these formal shots. I moved obediently behind the ornate folding screen that separated the main ballroom from the service area, watching through the gaps as my family posed for posterity. The screen effectively rendered me invisible while keeping me technically present. A perfect metaphor for my role in family gatherings. My phone vibrated against my purse. I glanced at the screen. Urgent embassy secure line. Ladies and gentlemen, the coordinator announced, please take your seats. The ceremony will begin shortly. I made my way to table 23, my phone continuing to buzz with increasing urgency as I settled between the Henderson +1 and distant cousin Jake. Table 23 sat strategically behind a wall of floral arrangements and decorative pillars, effectively blocking any view of the ceremony altar. My tablemates included Jake, who introduced himself as Victoria's second cousin from the accounting branch of the family, Mrs. Henderson's elderly +1 who kept asking where the bathrooms were, and two college friends of James who looked equally uncomfortable with their relegated seating. Elena works for the government, Jake announced to our table as the string quartet began the processional. Some kind of international something, right? Something like that, I murmured, discreetly checking my secure phone under the table. 7 missed calls from the embassy, 3 from my counterpart in Geneva, and 2 marked flash priority from the Secretary of State's office. The ceremony began with Victoria floating down the aisle to Pachelbel's cannon, her train trailing behind her like liquid starlight. From our obstructed view, I caught glimpses of the proceedings between towering centerpieces, enough to see Victoria and James exchange vows that would launch their perfect medical power couple trajectory. During the ring exchange, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Ambassador Patricia Henley. Elena, urgent situation developing with the Corson Accords. Need your input immediately. Where are you? I texted back. Family wedding. Can handle remotely if needed. This requires secure communications. How quickly can you get to a private location? I glanced around table 23, where Jake was explaining his accounting career to anyone who'd listen while Mrs. Henderson's +1 dozed gently in his chair. Give me 10 minutes. The ceremony concluded with thunderous applause as Victoria and James processed back down the aisle as husband and wife. Cocktail hour began immediately with guests flowing toward the terrace where champagne fountains and passed hors d'oeuvres awaited. I used the crowd movement to slip toward the country club's business center, a quiet area typically reserved for members conducting discreet phone meetings during social events. Ambassador Henley answered on the first ring. Elena, thank God. The situation in Eastern Europe just escalated dramatically. 3 nations are threatening to withdraw from the Corson Accords unless we can provide immediate mediation. Which nations? Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Poland. They're claiming the agricultural provisions favor Western European interests unfairly. The entire trade agreement could collapse by Monday if we don't intervene. I closed the business center door and activated the secure line protocols I'd memorized years ago. What's our timeline? Emergency session called for tomorrow morning in Brussels. You're the only advisor who understands both the agricultural provisions and the Eastern European political dynamics. We need you on the diplomatic flight tonight. Through the business center's windows, I could see my family's cocktail reception in full swing. Victoria and James moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting congratulations and posing for photos with their accomplished medical colleagues. Ambassador, I'm currently at a family wedding. My cousin just. Elena, I understand the personal conflict, but we're talking about a trade agreement that affects 40 million people across 6 nations. The president specifically requested your involvement after your success with the Baltic negotiations last month. My success with the Baltic negotiations. The 3-week diplomatic marathon that had prevented a trade war between 5 countries, which my family had dismissed as another business trip for Elena's consulting work. How long would I be in Brussels? Minimum 3 days, possibly a week if the negotiations extend. Elena, I know this is difficult timing, but you're the lead architect on the agricultural provisions. Without your input, this entire framework collapses. I looked through the window at Victoria's reception, where guests clinked glasses and congratulated the happy couple on their bright medical futures. Nobody had noticed my absence from table 23. Send me the briefing materials. I can review them en route. Elena, you're saving potentially hundreds of thousands of jobs across Eastern Europe. The president will remember this. As I ended the secure call, my regular phone rang. Victoria's name appeared on the screen. Elena? Where are you? We're about to start the toasts and Mother noticed you're not at your table. I'm handling a work emergency. I'll be right back. Work emergency? Elena, this is my wedding day. Surely your consulting projects can wait until Monday. Through the window, I could see Ambassador Henley's diplomatic security detail entering the country club's main entrance. 3 men in dark suits moving with the purposeful efficiency of federal agents on urgent business. Victoria, I need to go. Congratulations on the marriage. You looked beautiful. Elena, don't you dare leave my reception for some work call. Mother will never forgive you and neither will I. But the line had already gone dead. International diplomacy was calling. I returned to the ballroom just as Ambassador Henley approached the main entrance with her security detail. The sight of federal agents in a wedding reception caused immediate commotion. Conversations stopped, champagne glasses paused halfway to lips, and the photographer lowered his camera in confusion. Ladies and gentlemen, the wedding coordinator announced nervously, we have some unexpected guests who need to speak with someone briefly. Please continue enjoying your cocktails. Victoria rushed toward the entrance, her wedding dress rustling with alarm. Excuse me, who are you? This is a private family celebration. Ambassador Henley stepped forward with diplomatic authority. Ma'am, I'm Ambassador Patricia Henley from the State Department. We need to speak with Dr. Elena Vasquez immediately regarding an urgent international situation. The ballroom went completely silent. All 300 guests turned to stare at the federal agents who'd interrupted their elegant wedding reception. Dr. Vasquez? Victoria repeated weakly. You mean my cousin Elena? She works in consulting. Dr. Vasquez is our senior policy advisor for international relations, Ambassador Henley explained clearly. She's needed urgently for emergency diplomatic negotiations in Brussels. James appeared beside Victoria, his medical training making him the first to recover from shock. There must be some mistake. Elena does travel consulting or something similar. She's not a doctor. Actually, Ambassador Henley said, pulling out official credentials, Dr. Vasquez holds a PhD in international political economy from Georgetown and has been instrumental in negotiating major trade agreements between European nations and the United States. Aunt Mary materialized from the crowd, her mother of the bride composure cracking. Elena? What is this woman talking about? Elena works for some business consulting firm. I stepped forward from behind the decorative screen where I'd been watching this surreal scene unfold. Ambassador Henley, I'm here. The security team immediately formed a protective perimeter as Ambassador Henley approached. Dr. Vasquez, we have the diplomatic transport waiting. The briefing materials are prepared and the European delegation is standing by. European delegation? Victoria whispered, staring at me like I'd transformed into someone she'd never seen before. Dr. Vasquez has been lead negotiator on the Morrison trade accords for the past 8 months, Ambassador Henley explained to the stunned wedding guests. The agreement affects agricultural trade between the United States and 6 European nations, representing billions of dollars in economic activity. Jake from table 23 found his voice first. Elena, you're a diplomat? Like an actual government diplomat. Senior policy advisor, I corrected. I negotiate trade agreements between world governments. The silence that followed was deafening. 300 wedding guests processed the revelation that the woman they'd hidden behind a decorative screen was apparently important enough to warrant federal agents interrupting a wedding reception. Ma'am, one of the security agents said quietly, we need to depart for the airport immediately. The diplomatic flight has priority clearance. Victoria's carefully planned reception was dissolving into chaos as guests whispered frantically about the woman they'd relegated to table 23. Phones appeared as people began Googling my name, discovering diplomatic credentials and international negotiation achievements they'd never known existed. Elena, Aunt Mary said weakly, why didn't you tell us you were important? You never asked what I actually did, I replied simply. You just assumed it wasn't worth explaining at family gatherings. Ambassador Henley was already moving toward the exit. Dr. Vasquez, Brussels is waiting. I looked back at my family, all of them staring with varying degrees of shock, embarrassment, and dawning recognition of their massive miscalculation about my career significance. The diplomatic flight to Brussels took 8 hours, during which I successfully drafted preliminary resolutions that would save the Morrison Accords and prevent an agricultural trade war. The negotiations concluded Friday with all 6 European nations signing amended agreements that protected both American and Eastern European farming interests. Victoria's wedding photos were published in the society pages, but the accompanying article focused more on the diplomatic interruption than the bride's medical achievements. Wedding reception becomes international incident when federal agents retrieve policy advisor, became the headline that defined her special day. Aunt Mary called Tuesday to apologize for the seating arrangement. Elena, we had no idea you were so accomplished. Why didn't you correct us? You never seemed interested in the details. We thought you were just a travel consultant. I do travel. I travel to negotiate agreements between world governments. The family dynamic shifted dramatically after the embassy incident. Suddenly everyone wanted to understand my work, asking detailed questions about diplomatic protocol and international relations they'd never bothered with before. Victoria's marriage struggled under the social embarrassment of having hidden her internationally important cousin behind decorative screens. Several wedding guests mentioned the incident to their medical colleagues, questioning Victoria's family awareness and judgment. The most satisfying moment came when the State Department honored me at their annual Diplomatic Achievement ceremony. The president personally thanked me for preventing an international trade crisis through exceptional negotiation skills and dedication to duty. I kept the Table 23 nameplate as a reminder that sometimes the most important work happens behind decorative screens. The ambassador's business card sits on my desk now, a symbol of knowing when duty transcends family expectations. Sometimes the best family honor is being called away to honor your country.